Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Back to Ashes. My name is Phoenix. I'd like to take a moment and acknowledge the elite members of the channel. Thank you for your continued and dedicated support. With that being said, it is now time to go back to ashes, for once we arise from the ashes, we are a bigger, brighter, stronger, and happier person every day. Sit back, relax, kick back, grab a snack or tuck in to get warm, and prepare for your dose of vocal melatonin entitled True Online Dating Horror Stories. Right after this intro, there will be an ad. I'll read the first story, there will be an ad, and after that, there will be no more ads within this video. Smiley face. It was 6 or 7 years ago. The kind of time in life that you only look back on when something inside you still hasn't healed. I just gotten out of a long-term relationship, one of those that leaves you raw and a little hollow. I moved back into my hometown, crashing with my buddy Calvin in the house he just bought. It was one of those clean slate moments you think will fix everything. Calvin gave me a killer deal on rent, said he liked the company. I think he just didn't like to be alone in that house. The first night I moved in, we cracked open a bottle, cooked dinner, and drank ourselves stupid. I barely remember crawling into bed, but I do remember the hangover that gutted me at my new job the next day. A great start. Calvin and I fell into a rhythm. Weekend beers, small gatherings, music in the background while the TV flickered white noise. I kept telling myself I was adjusting, that being single again was a good thing. My friends were all on Tinder, trying to drag me into it. But the thought of strangers behind filtered pictures didn't sit right with me. Something about it felt off, manufactured. I passed. But the house became a bit of a weekend hub. Nothing huge, 5 or 6 people max. That's how it was, one particular night. One I wish I could forget. Kelsey, an old friend I hadn't seen in a year, showed up. It was good. Easy laughs, catching up on family, jobs, exes. I handed her a drink and she squinted at me over the rim of her glass. I saw you took the plunge, eh? What plunge? Tinder, she laughed. I saw your profile. I didn't swipe, figured that'd be weird, but you should really pick better pictures. My stomach turned. I'm not on Tinder. She blinked. Well, then someone is pretending to be you. She pulled in her friend Kristen to help look for the profile again. Kristen shrugged and got back to scrolling on her phone while the beer pong table roared behind her. I was unsettled, but trying to play it cool. Kelsey and I changed the music and tried to keep talking. Then Kristen came back over, her face pale and phone in hand. Found him. I stared at the screen. It was me. Pictures I hadn't seen in years. Some from an old Facebook account I hadn't touched. Others from an Instagram I barely remembered updating. The bio was blank, just my name, my face, staring back at me. I asked Kristen to message the account, get a number. They responded instantly, not with a phone number, but with a link to an Instagram account. When I clicked it, my breath caught. Same name, same face, but the profile felt wrong, like someone had copied me, but without understanding me. The captions were off. The order of photos felt calculated. A few images had strong shadows in the background. One photo had a figure, blurry, just barely visible in the reflection of a window behind me. I messaged the account. Stop using my photos and name. I'm reporting you. Take this down now. No response. I put my phone away, tried to let it go. Played some Pong, laughed a little too loud, tried to drown the unease. Eventually, Everyone crashed or trickled out. I put on Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors, to distract myself while cleaning. The irony wasn't lost on me. I passed out as soon as I hit the pillow. Until 3 a.m. Buzz. Instagram notification. The fake account. One message. Smiley face. Not an emoji. Just the colon and parentheses. Something about the simplicity of it made my blood run cold. Half asleep, I fired off another message. Delete this account. I'm serious. I must have fallen back asleep again because when I woke up, there was a new reply awaiting. Anything for you. Smiley face. The profile photo was gone now, replaced by a black circle. My name had been erased from the profile. Just an empty shell where my reflection used to be. I thought it was over. A week passed. Calvin was out with friends one night, and I stayed in, head pounding, stomach in knots. Just wanted to sleep. Then, another notification. Same account. Message. I know where you are. Smiley face. Before I could respond, another notification. A photo. It was Calvin's house, taken from across the street. Only the streetlight gave away the shape of the porch. My bedroom window glowing faintly upstairs. I locked every window, every door, turned off every light, and sat in silence, watching the hallway from the shadows of my room. Another message, hours later. I know where you sleep. Smiley face. My hands shook as I picked up the bat from under my bed. Another image came through. A window. Impossible to place, but I swore it looked like mine, just slightly warped by a wide-angle lens. My curtain drawn, but not fully. I ran downstairs, flung open the back door, and screamed. I've got a dog, and the cops are coming. Step foot near me. You're done. Lie. We didn't have a dog. 15 minutes later, rattling at the front door, the bat raised. What are you doing? Calvin shouted, pushing the door open. I spilled everything. He wanted to call the police. I wanted to burn the house down. We settled on blocking the account and keeping watch. Nothing happened after that. Months passed. I let it go. Eventually, I gave in. I joined Tinder. Told myself it was fine. Safer, smarter. Kept my circle tight. No weirdness, no fake profiles. Just awkward dates and small talk. But sometimes late at night, I'd get that buzz. Once, just before the first date, I opened Instagram out of habit. New message request from a brand new account. No posts, no followers, no name. Just one message. You finally swiped right. Smiley face. Attached was a photo. Not of me, not of Calvin's house. It was of me sleeping, taken from the crack in my closet door. And something else was in the frame. Crouched low, watching me, smiling. She said it was over. Online dating used to be a punchline when I was younger. Back in high school, it was something people whispered about with embarrassment, reserved for the desperate or the broken. But my 20s, it was the norm. Everyone swiping, everyone searching. I guess it made sense. Loneliness is a quiet epidemic, and Tinder was the closest thing we had to medicine. That's how I met Felicia. Her profile was unremarkable at first. Just a few selfies and a bio that read, "Let's get a drink and forget everything." There was something magnetic about her eyes in those pictures. Something tired, like she'd been through too much, but hadn't broken yet. We matched on a Thursday and met that same night at a bar near her place. She was charming, sharp, and had this way of looking at you like she already knew your secrets. For the first hour, we clicked. Easy chemistry. But midway through her second drink, her whole demeanor shifted. She went stiff, her eyes fixed on something over my shoulder. "You see that guy?" she whispered. "Yankees hat at the bar." I turned casually. The guy was locked in on us. On her. His eyes were cold and lifeless. "That's my ex's best friend," she said. "If he's here, my ex probably knows where I am." Her voice cracked when she said, "my ex." I didn't push for details. We've all got history. I told her not to worry, that I could handle myself. She gave me a half smile, one of those sad ones that say, "You don't get it," and asked if we could leave. On the way out, Yankees hat intercepted us. Didn't even look at me, just spoke to her like I wasn't there. "Leaving already? Come on, just one drink, for old time's sake." She told him no, calmly and politely. Then he started begging like a little kid. "Just one." I stepped in, offered a handshake. He laughed in my face and said, "Really?" to her. We left. Back at my place, things calmed down. We drank, played Mario Kart, fell asleep on the couch, tangled in blankets like we'd known each other for years. When we woke up, she was smiling until she checked her phone. A friend had messaged her. Not long after we left the bar, her ex had shown up. She apologized again, said she understood if I didn't want to keep seeing her. But I told her I wasn't scared. I should have been. We kept seeing each other, more nights at my place, never hers. She claimed she had too many roommates, no privacy, and I didn't push. But that bar, we never went back. Then came the night I wish I could forget. It was a Saturday. She stayed over. We fell asleep after watching some dumb horror movie. Sometime in the night, I woke up to her screaming, not in pain, in fury. She was on the phone, yelling. I couldn't hear the other voice, just the tone. Loud, unhinged, animal. She hung up, threw the phone across the room, and started crying. I held her, told her it was okay. Then we heard it. 2 car doors slamming, right outside my house. She sat bolt upright, whispered, "No, no, 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 no," over and over. I ran to the window. 2 figures emerged from the dark, one in a Yankees hat, the other bald, hulking, his head gleaming under the porch light. Her ex. Before I could say a word, they started kicking the front door. No warning, just violence. Felicia screamed at them to stop. And then she unlocked the door. "What the fuck? Felicia!" They burst in. I didn't try to be a hero. I ran, hid in the coat closet, heart beating so loud I was sure they'd hear it. I peeked through the slats. Her ex was rabid, roaring, demanding to know where I was. Felicia kept saying, "Let's go home. I'm sorry. I'll never do it again." Home. Do it again. He was trashing the place, smashing my furniture, screaming like a dog, frothing at the mouth. Eventually, they left. But before he did, he shouted, "This ain't over, bro." I waited, listened for the car to drive away. When it was finally quiet, I stepped out. The living room looked like a war zone. I wanted to believe I'd just gotten caught in some twisted breakup fallout. But then, the pieces started falling into place too easily. No social media, no photos of her life, never staying at her place. The vague excuses, the things she never said. I had a friend dig through Facebook. He found her, still married, to the guy in the Yankees hat. I felt sick, betrayed, used. I messaged him from my friend's account, told him I had no idea, swore I wouldn't have touched her if I knew. He responded, said he forgave me, said he understood, said he'd pay for the damages, that they were working things out. That should have been the end. But a week later, I got a package in the mail, no return address. Inside was a single item, a USB drive. Curious? Dumb. I plugged it into my laptop. There was one file, a video, grainy footage, night vision, my bedroom, me asleep, Felicia next to me. The camera was still, mounted, maybe hidden. Then, movement. From the hallway, a figure steps into frame. The Yankees hat is unmistakable. He walks to my side of the bed, just stands there, watching me sleep. He never looks at Felicia, never touches me, just leans in, so close his mouth is inches from my ear. And then, the video ends. Coraline. After about a year on Hinge, the dating app had become less of a window into possibility and more of a long, slow walk through a graveyard of the same tired profiles, ghosts of conversations past, familiar faces resurrected with new bios, but the same hollow eyes. I wasn't exactly swimming in matches, but I'd become addicted to the scroll, a small ritual of loneliness. Then, Coraline appeared. Not a real name, obviously, but I'm not even sure the real name matters anymore. She had that kind of beauty that made me involuntarily whisper, "Wow," to no one. Her skin was the shade of sun-warmed clay. Her eyes too large for her face, but hypnotic, like they saw too much. She had dip-dyed, shoulder-length hair, half ink black, half deep garnet red. It reminded me of dried blood, but it was her stillness that struck me. Every photo, even the ones where she smiled, had a quality of deliberate quiet, like she was watching something in the distance. Her prompt said, "You should know, I was in a car accident. I have neurological scarring and some disabilities because of it." That sentence was a gut punch. I'm not proud of my reaction. I hesitated. She was gorgeous, obviously, but my mind, shallow, instinctive, recoiled. I stared at that sentence longer than I should have. But it was the photos that pulled me back in. Climbing gear, dusty trail hikes, yoga poses that required a kind of discipline I'd never know. She looked like someone who'd survived something with teeth, so I messaged her. She was sharp, witty, the kind of person who uses words like petrichor and liminal in casual conversation. We moved fast, texts to voice notes to a rainy day coffee date. She was even more intoxicating in person. But beneath her charm was a tension, something always in her peripheral. She mentioned the accident, eventually. Scars at her hairline, a stiff shoulder, occasional tremors in her left hand. But her real damage, she said, came at night. Night terrors. Not the kind where you scream and wake up. The kind where you don't. Where you move through them. She warned me before we slept together. Said she'd gone years avoiding intimacy. Afraid of what her brain might do when the lights went out and someone was lying next to her. I told her I wasn't afraid. I lied. The night we finally crossed that line, everything felt perfect. Her skin, warm against mine. Her breath, calm. No tremors, no screams. Just soft rain and the hum of a city asleep. I remember thinking, I could love her. I drifted off with her pressed into my chest, the heat of her body grounding me like a tether. Then I woke up. It was 3:04 a.m. The bed beside me was cold, empty. I blinked into the dark, expecting to hear the faucet or the flush of the toilet, but there was nothing, just stillness. I called her name. Nothing. That's when I heard the rattle. My apartment door. The deadbolt clicking against pressure. My place at the time was this crumbling walk-up in Brooklyn, like a warped door that wouldn't stay shut unless latched from inside. So the sound wasn't someone trying to get in. It was someone trying to get out. I stumbled to the hallway, heart hammering, throat dry. Coraline was at the door, barefoot, trembling, her hair wild. She had her back to me at first, her body taut like a feral cat, ready to bolt. I opened my mouth to speak, but that's when I saw it. A corkscrew, held like a weapon, the pointed spiral glinting faintly in the light from the street lamp outside. She spun around. "Who are you?" she shrieked. "Why is the door locked? Let me out, or I swear I'll call the cops." It wasn't her voice. I swear it wasn't her voice. It was younger, more frantic, like a child trapped in the body of a woman. I froze. Everything in me screamed to run, but I didn't. I stepped closer, hands up, soothing. "Coraline, it's me. You're okay. We had dinner. You stayed over. You're safe." She didn't blink. Her eyes were wrong, like she didn't recognize the shape of the room or the shape of me. Then she lunged. I stumbled backward, slipping against the hardwood, the cold metal tip of the corkscrew pressing into the hollow of my neck. Just enough pressure to sting. Just enough to remind me that I was seconds away from dying naked in my own hallway at the hands of a woman who thought I was someone else. She was crying now. Silent tears, but the corkscrew didn't move. Then she woke up. That's the only way I can describe it. Her pupils dilated. Her grip loosened. She looked down at the corkscrew, back at me, and let it fall off to the floor with a clatter. I'm so sorry," she whispered. I stayed with her until sunrise, made her tea, held her as she cried into my chest, still naked, still shivering. She said she didn't remember most of it, said she dreamed she was back in the car, that it wasn't me she saw at all. We broke things off a week later. She said she wasn't ready, that the accident still had its hooks in her. I didn't argue. Months passed. I thought about her a lot, wondered if she was okay, if she still had that corkscrew in her bag. Then, about 2 weeks ago, a strange letter arrived. No return address and, of course, no name. Inside was a single photo. It was me, lying in bed, asleep. My chest rose gently in the frame. The timestamp read 3:02 a.m., the night she stayed over. The image was taken from across the room near my closet. I don't own a camera, and I swear to God, I always lock my bedroom door. The girl from the bar. I matched with her on Hinge, an art student, pretty in a slightly eerie way, wide eyes that lingered a little too long in photos, like she was looking through the camera. The date we went on? Unremarkable. Small talk, laughter. I didn't expect to hear from her again, but the next night, just as I'm about to turn in, I get a text. I'm at a bar in your neighborhood. You should come by. Maybe we'll hook up. It felt sudden, but I was bored, and the idea of salvaging the weirdly dry chemistry from the night before intrigued me. I went. She was already a few drinks in, perched at the bar like she'd been waiting for something, or someone. Her eyes lit up when she saw me, but it was more like recognition than excitement. Like she'd finally found what she came for. She was different this time. Open, laughing, magnetic. She kept brushing her fingers along mine, kept leaning in. I should have been thrilled, but something gnawed at me. The way she stared, like she was studying me, like I was a project. When closing time hit, she practically purred the words, I think we should go back to your place. And God help me, I said yes. In the Uber, she sang along to some song the driver had playing, eyes closed, arms out like she was summoning something. Then, as we pulled up, she opened the door and fell, face first into the concrete. I scrambled to help, heart pounding, expecting blood or worse. But she just laughed softly, like it didn't hurt at all. Inside, she started to unravel. Her speech slurred beyond what a few drinks should cause. Her body sagged against mine. She couldn't even keep her eyes open. I thought maybe she hit her head harder than I realized. Or maybe she had taken something earlier. I played nurse. Frozen peas on her forehead. Water. Gentle words. She kept muttering, just need sleep, need to rest. So I let her collapse onto my bed and retreated to the couch. I didn't want to be creepy. I just wanted her to be okay. But sleep never really came. Not with those sounds. Somewhere between a groan and a chant. That's what I heard from my bedroom. I crept to the door. Inside, she was moving, not just shifting in sleep, rocking, sitting up, eyes open but unfocused, whispering something over and over that I couldn't quite catch. Then suddenly, she rolled off the bed, knocked over the trash can, yanked her pants down and pissed upward like a damn fountain. It was unnatural. The way her body moved, the angle, like physics didn't apply to her anymore. I hauled her towards the bathroom, holding back the urge to gag. She slumped against the toilet, groaning, her breath ragged. Then she fell, hard, head wedged between the bowl and the sink, limbs like wet rope. I couldn't lift her, so I stayed. Hours passed. Her breathing was heavy, almost wet. I checked her pulse more than once. She moaned and mumbled things, strange, guttural things in a language I didn't know. Words that didn't feel like they belonged in a human mouth. And then, the stench. When I returned to check on her, the bathroom was a horror show. Feces everywhere but the toilet. Walls smeared, floors coated, her body curled in a heap like a broken doll. Her eyes fluttered open as I approached and locked onto mine. "You shouldn't have invited me in," she whispered, voice slithering through the air. It didn't sound like her voice. I backed out of the room. I didn't sleep. In the morning, she was snoring in my bed, still in her filthy clothes, caked in vomit. I couldn't take it anymore. I left her clean clothes, $10 and directions to a laundromat. I figured I was doing her a favor. I thought it was over. But that night, a text. "I know it was you. I'm going to the cops. I hope prison is fun." At first, I thought it was a joke. Wrong number, a mistake. But she followed it up, accusing me of spiking her drink, getting her hair tested, going to the police. I was stunned, terrified. Every part of me screamed, "You didn't do anything." But from the outside, it looked bad. It looked real bad. And that's when the detective called. He said they needed to talk. He told me not to leave town. Weeks passed in a fog of dread and interrogations, but then something broke the darkness. The bar had security footage. While I was in the bathroom that night, some guy, tall, gaunt, watching, had hovered near her drink. He was a registered offender. Cops raided this place, found GHB, keepsakes from other women, a monster, a predator, and somehow I wasn't his target. She was. And then the twist, the one that haunts me. He didn't drug her. The tests came back. Her hair was clean. No drugs, no GHB, nothing. She wasn't poisoned. She wasn't drugged. She was something else. The man they arrested, he confessed in pieces, but not to assault, not to drugging. He said, "I just wanted to follow her. She's not like the others. She's hollow, like a suit with something else inside. It was calling me. Her, I mean. I could hear it when I got close. That whisper. I wanted to know what it was." They locked him up. Case closed. But I never got an apology. Not from her, not from the police, not from anyone. She blocked me, disappeared, left a scar on my life that won't fade. And every so often, I think back to that night. The whispering, the movement, the way her eyes looked when she said I shouldn't have let her in. Sometimes when I'm alone, I hear her voice again, in the bathroom, under the bed, in my walls, and I wonder, did I bring her home that night, or did it bring her to me? She only sleeps where it's warm. I haven't told anyone the whole truth. Not my family, not my therapist, not even myself. Not really. Not until now. This is anonymous, and thank God for that. Because the things that I let happen, the things I did, you'd never look at me the same if you knew. I barely recognize myself when I think back on those years. But sometimes I catch glimpses, like a figure in a fogged mirror, and I remember what it felt like, how easy it was to fall in love with someone who fed on the parts of me that I hated. I was in my early 30s, single, drifting, and cracking under the quiet weight of loneliness. Every relationship I'd ever had ended in failure, and each one left a mark. Something hollowed out, something taken. I was starved for affection, so I went where the desperate go. Craigslist. Back then, there weren't a dozen apps to filter the madness. You just cast a line into the dark and hoped something human bit. And something did. The ad was vague. Couple seeking open-minded man, interested in building something unusual. Chemistry matters. Her name was Natalie. We met in a bar. She looked like a dream sculpted in alabaster. High cheekbones, cruel lips, eyes too green to be real. Her boyfriend, on the other hand, barely existed, slumped in the corner, grotesque and silent. His name was Jared, or maybe Gerald. I'm not sure I ever really knew. She talked. I listened. By the time we left the bar, I was already under her spell. Their house was tucked deep in a neighborhood I didn't recognize, even though I lived in the city for a decade. It was strange, windowless in places it shouldn't have been, with light bulbs that buzzed like insects trapped in glass. I told myself it was just old, that's all. Natalie sent him to the other room without a word. He obeyed. She locked the door behind him. That night, I tasted validation for the first time in years. When it was over, she laid beside me and whispered things I thought were confessions. She said she was unhappy, that her boyfriend couldn't satisfy her, that she was more burden than partner. She asked me if I'd ever considered something different, a relationship with more than two people. She said she wanted love without limits, that I could be part of it, one of the chosen. I should have run. I should have known that love doesn't come with conditions like obedience. But I was starving, and she fed me. By the time I moved in, there were 5 of us. Me, Natalie, her original boyfriend, now more like a fixture in the house, a girl named Elise, and someone who insisted we call them Moth. Moth had eyes like smoked glass and whispered to themselves in a language none of us understood. The house didn't feel like a home. It felt like a stomach, warm, dark, pulsing with low sounds you couldn't locate. We weren't partners, we were orbiting satellites. Our world was Natalie, and every day was a competition for her warmth. If you pleased her, if you bought her something expensive, or cooked her favorite meal just right, or cleaned something without being asked, maybe, just maybe, she'd sleep in your bed that night. She never had her own room. She drifted, a ghost of silk and teeth. She never knew where she'd lay her head, but you knew when it wasn't with you. We told ourselves it was love. It was ritual. I remember one night I bought her a necklace, gold, real. I cooked her steak and garlic mashed potatoes, exactly how she liked it. I even did all of her laundry and folded it the way she preferred. Sleeves tucked in, seams aligned. But she didn't come to my room that night. She went to his, the first one, the lump, Jared. I found out the next day he'd paid all of her bills for the month. Thousands. Money he didn't have. I snapped. We argued. I called it what it was. A contest. She just sat between us, smiling faintly, until the tension bled out of the room like heat from an open window. She was good at that, turning fights into silences, making you feel guilty for raising your voice. We had one of those group talks later. Natalie's idea, of course. I told her I felt used, like we were all just playing some game to win her favor. Her smile vanished, and so did she, at least from my room. No matter what I did after that, she never came back to me. Not once. I could have set myself on fire, and she would have warmed her hands. I started unraveling. I couldn't eat. I barely slept. I felt like a dog chained to an empty bowl, watching everyone else get fed. Then came the night she sat me down, touched my hand gently, and told me I should leave. "The chemistry's just not there anymore," she said. "It's better for everyone." I think I died a little right then. That night, I drove to the old bridge out on Highway 9. I parked, walked halfway across, stared into the black water. It was so easy to imagine the fall, to imagine peace. But something inside me, something small and terrified, yanked the wheel. I drove back, checked into a motel, hid. A week later, I packed up and disappeared. Therapy helped, a little. It took months to even say the word out loud. Cult. Because that's what it was. Natalie was the high priestess of her own little religion, and we were the worshipers. She never raised her voice, never made threats. She didn't need to. We punished ourselves in her name. But I never stopped looking over my shoulder. And here's where it gets strange. About a year after I left, I moved back to my hometown. Quiet place, safe. My sister lived nearby, and I saw her kids often. It was the first real warmth I'd felt in years, the kind that doesn't ask you to bleed for it. Then one day, my sister mentioned something odd. "New family moved in across the field," she said. "Unusual setup. A woman with a few housemates." I laughed, shrugged it off, until I saw her. At the grocery store, aisle 4, she was buying apples. Same black hair, same pale skin, same eyes. She looked straight at me, and she smiled. I froze. She didn't look older. She didn't look changed. If anything, she looked younger, fresher. There was someone behind her, a man I didn't recognize. He had that same dazed expression Jared used to wear, like he hadn't slept in weeks. And behind him, a girl, holding a bouquet. Her eyes were wide, eager, desperate, just like mine had been. Natalie turned back to the apples. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to, because I understood then, in the gut of me, in the rotted marrow where her love once lived. She only sleeps where it's warm, and when it gets cold, she moves on. Too good to be true. I never thought I'd find myself staring at a man through a pane of glass and wondering how close I came to something truly evil. But here we are. Angela wasn't my type. That's not an insult, just a fact. We were friends, bound not by romance, but by circumstance. Our mothers were close at the office years ago, and through them, our lives threaded together. She was a 29-year-old single mom with 2 kids and a past heavy enough to drown in. I was 24 and had time to spare, enough time to help her out here and there, to carry groceries, watch the kids, and fix what her ex-husband broke. That man, her ex, was already a shadow when I met her. A ghost who gambled away $8,000 and vanished into the ether. Angela said he begged her to abort the baby a week before giving birth. You don't forget details like that. I think a part of her soul froze in that moment. She didn't say it, but I could see it in her eyes whenever she smiled. Too wide, too forced. I liked being needed. Maybe that's what kept me close. She was lonely, understandably. When she got on Tinder, I didn't stop her. Who was I to say anything? But when she told me about the guy she met, tall, handsome, rich, never had a girlfriend at 28, I felt the first ripple of unease. I told myself it was just protective instinct or maybe jealousy. But deep down, I knew it was something darker, something wrong. The first time I met him, he was too perfect. His smile was smooth, calculated. His words hung in the air a second too long, like they'd been rehearsed. And the way he looked at Angela's kids, not at them, through them, set something cold crawling up my spine. I said something. I always do. She snapped back that I was just jealous, that I loved her. That really stung. Not because it was true, but because it wasn't. And yet, I still cared enough to back away before I said something I'd regret. But that nagging dread didn't go away. It pulsed beneath my skin, restless and urgent. 2 weeks passed, silent. No calls, no texts, just quiet. Until one night, I couldn't sleep. The thought of her kids, of them alone with that man, kept pulling at my mind like a fishhook. So I looked him up. One search. That's all it took. His Facebook was wide open. Rookie mistake for someone with secrets. I clicked through photos and posts, each one peeling back a layer. He was in a relationship with another single mom. He was posting in LGBT forums, which was fine, but then I found those posts. A 5-paragraph rant about how children can feel love too, how age is a construct, how MAPs are unfairly stigmatized. My stomach turned. I took screenshots, all of them. Angela didn't know he had a Facebook. He told her he didn't believe in social media. I didn't want to be alone when I showed her, so I waited until her mom was there. I needed a witness. I needed someone else to feel what I felt. Angela was pale as I spoke. Her hands trembled as I showed her the posts. Her mom cursed under her breath and launched into a tirade about men like that. Angela said he'd been alone with her kids. Once, maybe twice. She broke up with him that night. Reported nothing. Asked her kids careful questions. Nothing had happened. At least, nothing they remembered. Things went back to normal. She even thanked me. I returned to helping her, watching the kids when I could. Everything seemed fine. But then, a few months later, I saw him again. On the news. A mugshot. That same too-perfect smile cracked now into something vacant. They'd arrested him for trespassing at a daycare. At night. Cameras caught him slipping inside through a window. But that wasn't the twist. The twist came after. Angela's son, Timmy, started sleepwalking. Once, I found him standing in the living room just before dawn, staring at the locked front door, whispering to himself. Another night, he asked me why the man with the deer eyes came in at night. I asked him what he meant. He said, "The one who smells like pennies. He said you let him in." I didn't sleep after that. I changed all the locks, put a security camera up without telling Angela. 2 weeks later, I checked the footage of a motion alert. At 3:12 a.m., the front door handle jiggled. And then, something worse. From inside the house, someone walked to the door. I stared at the grainy footage, frozen. It was me. Only I was asleep in my apartment that night. But there I was on the screen, unlocking the door and walking back into the shadows. Angela never saw the footage. Some things you keep to yourself. Some doors, once open, never truly close. The Hollow Ones. I was born under a gray sky, cradled by the cold arms of the Appalachian Mountains, a place that wraps secrets in fog and keeps ghosts tucked in every holler. By 16, I already understood one thing too well. Love was dangerous, especially the kind of love that dared speak its name with another boy. After I came out, my parents, stiff-backed evangelicals, tossed me to the wolves with a prayer and a warning. Their version of mercy was letting me stay a few nights a week. The rest, I spent curled on strangers' couches, sipping from bottles passed by trembling hands and letting numbness take the place of sleep. A year earlier, I tried to die. An overdose meant to sever me clean from the world instead left me lingering in a hospital bed for 9 days. Half of that time watching shadows drip from the corners of the ceiling. My liver pulled a Lazarus trick. I survived, but something stayed dead inside. Then came Jacob. He arrived like a whisper through a dusty MySpace profile. All black clothes, eyes like bruises, a half smile that looked like it knew things you didn't want to ask about. His profile pulsed with darkness, exactly the frequency I had tuned my soul to. I messaged him. He messaged back within seconds. That was the beginning of the end. I fell fast. First Jacob, then his best friend, Josie, and finally, Zachary, Jacob's ex, the soft-hearted pianist who became my everything. It was a twisted little triangle, but the time I dated Zachary, I was already deep inside the mouth of something I didn't understand. Josie, always near, always kind, became my anchor. She knew them both so well. She knew everyone. The group called themselves the Elites, a self-made gang, they claimed. A pack of suburban kids playing at wolves. But behind the jokes and the weed, there were stories of violence, obsession, disappearances. Jacob, they said, had a jealous streak, the kind that ended in missing time and busted lips. I didn't listen. I was in love. Then Jacob snapped. He kidnapped Zachary. Josie called me, panicked. He'd done this before, apparently. Just one of his jealous rages. The gang roughed him up and got Zachary back. End of story, right? Not even close. That year blurred into something else. Weekly breakdowns, threats, strange absences, calls in the night from Josie about Jacob's latest spiral. Eventually, She'd warned me Jacob had paid someone to kill me and my family. My 7-year-old sister, the only innocent in my broken little world. That flipped a switch in me. I borrowed a shotgun, loaded it, and waited beneath the oak tree out front, hidden, still, and ready to kill. When the hitman arrived, I stepped from the shadows with steel and fury, stared down the barrel of his gun, and promised him I'd paint the grass red with his brains if he didn't get back in his car and vanish. He left, laughing, a hollow sound I still hear when I close my eyes. But the story doesn't end there. No, that's when the real madness began. I traveled to Maryland. Josie welcomed me like family. Zachary had fled, she said, to New York to escape Jacob. We plotted revenge. Later that week, we went ghost hunting on abandoned railroad tracks. A distraction. We even brought the hitman, Sean, who laughed and said for $500 more, he'd have blown my sister's head off like it was nothing. And I still didn't see it. Not yet. Then came February. Josie moved in with me to escape her parents. Zachary, sweet, sick Zachary, was hospitalized with cystic fibrosis. He needed a double lung transplant. On Valentine's Day, Josie told me the words that cracked my world in two. He's gone. Zachary was dead, suffocated in a hospital bed. I collapsed into a sobbing wreck. Josie held me. She cried too, said she loved him like a brother. We buried him in memory, in music, in silence. And then a month later, she called me, casual as spring rain. Zachary's not dead. I thought it was a joke. But she passed the phone, and I heard his voice. The world shifted beneath me like a bridge snapping in a storm. Everything crashed. I broke. I drank until I forgot who I was, lost my job, nearly killed myself and others by driving 135 miles per hour on shredded tires. Got arrested? That night should have ended me. Maybe in some ways it did. Later, something whispered inside me. Something old, something furious. A voice that said, "Look closer." That's when I started digging. MySpace, Facebook, everything. And I found them. Not people, profiles, duplicates, dummies, ghosts in the machine. Josie wasn't Josie. She was Jacob. She was Zachary. She was every single person I had ever loved or feared for 2 years. Every voice, every photo, every touch of love and violence. All her. The kidnapping, fate. The hospital, lied. The music, hers. She was a brilliant pianist. The voice of Zachary on the phone, a paid friend. The murder plot, real. She paid Sean to kill me and my family. I sat her down later, after I found her again. She'd moved to a town just a few miles from me. She confessed it all, claimed it started as a prank on a bully, that I was just the next trick. But then she fell for me. If that's love, God help us all. And then, as if she hadn't said the most horrifying things I'd ever heard, she laughed, just like Jacob did, just like Zachary did, once. Same laugh. And that's when I realized something that froze my blood colder than anything else. There never was a Josie either. Her real name was never Josie. I still don't know what it is. I've scoured the internet year after year. No trace, no real family, no record of anyone like her. Just deleted trails, photos that reverse search to nothing, dead ends. It's like she was made to vanish. And sometimes, when I'm alone at night, when the silence gets too loud, I get a call, a restricted number, and all I hear is a laugh. The same one. Still her. Still watching. Still playing. The one who almost got me. I grew up in Bristol. Not the postcard Bristol you see in travel blogs, but the real one. The one that hums with damp fog in the morning and exhales quiet secrets at night. Roman stones lay beneath our streets, older than sin, and the river Avon never stops moving. People talk about the beauty, the history, but no one talks about the shadows. Nothing extraordinary ever happened in my neighborhood. No miracles, no monsters, just the same rhythm of school, corner shops, and the quiet whir of television dinners. It was safe. It was dull. And then I met Nathan. I used to think danger had a look. Leather jackets, cigarettes, maybe a scar. But real danger? It wears a smile. Nathan's smile was the kind that made you feel seen. Like you'd spend your whole life asleep until he looked at you. He had a quiet voice and tired eyes, as if he knew things he shouldn't. I thought it made him deep. Now I know better. We met at a house party. I almost didn't go. Funny how fate works. I remember him leaning against the wall, detached from everyone, like the eye of the storm. That night, he told me I had an old soul. I blushed. Now it sounds more like a diagnosis. At first, it was romantic, in that desperate teenage way. He took me out for late-night burgers and indie films. We'd kiss under orange streetlights, the air electric with anticipation. But there were signs, small fractures if I dared to look. He never talked about his family. He watched me too long when I was quiet. Sometimes he'd touch my hair like he was measuring it. Then came the texts. At first, they were cute. Thinking of you. Can't stop dreaming about last night. But they grew darker, more explicit, crawling into my phone before dawn like worms. One morning, I woke up to a message that made my stomach twist. I dreamt you gagged in the bathtub, waiting for me. You look so perfect like that. I told him it made me uncomfortable. I told him I wasn't ready. He told me, you make it so hard to behave. As if his urges were my fault. I started to feel owned. It only got worse. His fantasies were no longer private daydreams. He shared them with me as if expecting me to say yes, tied up, locked in a room. Not for an hour, not as a game. Days. I told him no. That's when Nathan changed. His replies became venomous. He called me cold, frigid. He said I wasted his time, that I wasn't worthy of worship. It was the first time I felt genuinely afraid of him. Not hurt, afraid. Like something had crawled out of him, something ancient and rotting, and shown me its face. I didn't reply after that. I cried myself to sleep for days. And when I finally stepped outside again, ready to move on, I saw him. with her. A new girl, younger, pale and small like a paper doll. She clung to him like I once had, looking at him like he'd hung the moon. And when I confronted him in public, her eyes never left the pavement. She looked drained. That should have been the end of it. I deleted his number. I told myself I dodged a bullet. I even laughed about it later with friends. Until the news came. Her name was Rebecca, Nathan's stepsister. I knew her. Sweet, smart. We'd shared eyeliner and secrets. The police said she was missing. I texted. I called. Nothing. Then came the knock on our door. My mom answering, her hand flying to her mouth as she turned up the volume on the telly. I stood behind her, and there he was, Nathan, arrested for murder. Rebecca's body had been found, or what was left of it. They dismembered her, kept her locked away first, used her for days. The girl I'd seen him with, not a fling, an accomplice, a follower. They'd practiced on Rebecca to get it right for someone else, for me. I heard it in court. His message read aloud by the prosecution. I want her gagged in the tub, eyes wide. She won't scream. She'll know it's what she's for. I ran out of the room. I locked myself in the bathroom and vomited until my throat bled. That could have been me. That was meant to be me. He'd chosen me. I wasn't special. I was prey, and I had made it out only by saying no. But here's what makes my skin crawl. Even now, every year on the anniversary of his arrest, I get a letter. No name, no return address, just a single page. Always typed, always the same words. You were always meant for the dark. The authorities can't trace them. Maybe it's a sick prank, maybe not. But I still sleep with the lights on, and I never, ever answer unknown numbers. And that, dear listeners, brings a close to these true online dating horror stories. Before I go any further, I would like to acknowledge the rest of the membership of the channel, and for the new listeners. Thank you so much for your devoted support. Without you, I don't have a voice, and there would not be a Back to Ashes. I cannot thank you enough. If you are asleep, I hope Slumberland is treating you comfortably. If you're awake, I hope you've enjoyed these selections. Until next time, please stay safe out there. I'll be reading to you soon. Have yourselves a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening. Peace, love, and light to you all.